All right, robotics and engineering students, welcome to part 2 of our Canoe build here in Fusion. Last time we worked on this project, we basically built the quarter section that you see here and mirrored it. This time we are going to build a sort of interior shell as well as ribs and spars for this quarter section, which again can also be mirrored to create the full canoe. So well, let's get started. It is good to name your body parts here. Here you can see outer body 1. These ones I don't use in this example, so I haven't actually named them. But as we move forward, you'll see more body parts with names here. So the first thing we need to do is actually basically do the same exact thing we did to create this outer shell for the boat. But this time we'd like to create an inner shell. So it's going to take 3 sketches. They're going to be slightly different in order to create this inner shell. So I'm going to move our timeline here. You can see I've already done this, so I'm just going to kind of move through the timeline and explain how I created each move. So we're going to start with a sketch here. We'll move into the sketches. I'll turn my sketches on. This is turning several sketches on. Let's show you which one I did first. So here is the first sketch I did. That's 3 inches. We use the project tool, so S project, to get this bottom edge of the canoe. So we want that. So we'll project that in. And then this one I hand drew to connect from this top to here. So what we're really interested in is this spline here to help us create that inner part of the canoe. Let's move forward. I'm turning on 3 sketches that I made. Some of these I had gone back and opened up the original sketches and added these to those sketches. So as you can see, the original lines we drew to make the outer shell were these lines here. You can see this one highlighted in blue and this one highlighted in blue. And then the third line was this spline here. This spline on the top we're going to use a second time for the inner shell of this canoe. Using the previous sketches, we're going to draw this line in and this line in. So those are 2 separate sketches. And we're going to make sure they connect using that project tool to this construction line that's 3 inches tall. So this line and this line do need to connect here and be coincident on this point. So once you have your 3 lines, you're actually only needing to draw 2 new lines. So this line here that's highlighted and this line here that's highlighted, and they can be drawn in the old sketches lofting operation. So if I go ahead and turn this on, since here you can see down at the timeline below, this is my loft 2, kind of see it highlighted there. There it is when I loft it. We're going to go ahead and thicken it, so that's the next step. We'll thicken it the same amount, 0.25 inches in this direction, so kind of towards the inner part of the canoe. Then you can see nicely here, this one went outwards, this direction. This one's going to thicken the opposite direction, so we have this point right there where the 2 parts kind of connect. And we'll have a similar point over there. Okay, so now we have an inner shell and an outer shell. We can mirror these shells to get a total canoe with kind of this interior area. But what we want to do is add the ribs and spars for this. And so that's what we'll do next. So basically what I've done is in this sketch, I've actually added a line here so that this is an enclosed profile. You can see it looks like an enclosed profile, and we're going to simply extrude that profile. However, when we extrude it, and I'll bring this forward so we can take a look, just be careful of your settings. Because this wants to be mirrored, this part won't be mirrored because it's the center of the piece. So we're going to make sure the direction that we extrude is symmetric, and that make sure this, so it's the whole length is going to be 0.25 inches. And we'll make sure it's a new body, and we'll click OK. And there you go. Now we have our first rib. And it's sort of a half rib because we do need to mirror this to create the full kind of U shape that is that rib, but it's a half rib. Okay. So next we want to create, we have 3 more of these to create. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to do an offset plane. This offset plane is offset from the middle plane here, and it's 12 inches offset forward. If you don't remember how to do that, up to the construct menu, choose offset plane. You're going to select this plane here, and you're just going to tell it to go 12 inches forward. I'm not going to do it here, but that's how we get that. We'll do a split body. So what we're actually going to do is use this plane to cut these 2 pieces at this plane. So split body is found in modify. Here it is, split body. We're going to use multiple bodies here, this top and bottom, the inner and outer parts. So that's this. And there you can see it's split. If I kind of hover over this, you can see where that split is. And what does that look like? It looks like our rib. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to use this split to actually make another sketch so we can draw this rib exactly. So here it is, a new sketch. What happens when you do the split though is we also get new bodies. So inner body 1 and let's get rid of this. So removing those bodies, here we can see this sort of rib section here, and we're just going to create a new sketch off of this plane and use the project tool to grab this edge and this edge, and then we'll draw a line between them to create the profile. We'll extrude that again symmetrically, and that will give us this second rib. Now you're going to complete that 2 more times. So here you can see that's the extrusion, that is the second rib. There's another offset plane, again 12 inches. There's a split body, you can see it's now split. I created a sketch, so let me just get rid of those bodies. There's a new sketch right there. Again, using the project tool to grab those interior lines, and then drawing your line to connect them will create the profile. And then again, we extrude them, and there's that extrude. 1 more time, offset plane, 12 inches again. We'll split the body with that offset plane. There it is. And then we're going to, again, a new sketch and draw, use the project tool to connect to get these 2 interior edges, and we'll draw a line between them in that sketch. And then we just simply create that extrusion just like that. Nice and easy. So I'm going to turn everything back on here. So there are all our parts. I went ahead and you can see I've labeled them rib 2. There it is. Rib 3 just for ease, and you should do the same. Now you may be wondering about the idea that these are actually separate parts now. We will combine them in part 3 of this video, of our next video. So that'll be next week. So we got a little bit more. We'll finish this next week. So now we've got 4 ribs, and we're going to create 2 spars. This is our center spar here. So what we're going to do, I'm going to just drop the timeline back here, is we're going to create a new sketch on this plane here. I'll show you. This plane, we cutting this canoe in half. We're going to create a new plane, and we're just going to make sure we have these, this line and this line. If they're not already created, they should already be created for you, because that's how we actually got this outer, or this inner shell, and this line is how we got the outer shell. So you'll just need to connect them with an actual line to get that profile. Extrude it the same by making it symmetric, and we actually want to make sure this is selected. Whole length is 0.25 inches. Otherwise, it's 0.5 inches. Each side is 0.25 inches of the symmetric extrude. We want the whole extrude to just be. So we've got this spar here. We want to create one that's kind of running through this part of the canoe. So same technique basically that we did to create multiple ribs. We're going to create another offset plane. Here it is. It's up above. I did this one 8 inches above this plane. You can choose a different length or height if you want. 8 inches seem to feel right to me. Again, we'll do split plane. Now with this split plane, you do need to realize that there are multiple bodies here on the inside and the outside. So make sure you select them all. There should be 8 in total. So here you can see when we look at that feature, I had 8 selected body parts here that I had to select in order to get this to work. Okay, and the splitting tool is that plane. So there you can see the split, how I kind of cut that at 8 inches high. So now I'm just going to hide all these ribs. So if you can go and find your ribs, just hide them. There it is. And I'm going to hide that center spar. And we're going to create a sketch, which is the next step here. There it is. We're going to create a sketch on this plane here. Use the project tool to get these inner lines on each side of the inner and outer edges of these bodies. So that you actually have to grab 8 different lines here. You can see them. And then you're going to connect them here, between here and here, and connect them between here and here. That should give you a profile, which you can see there, highlighted in blue. And then you're going to extrude that, and you'll have a mid-spar. And that mid-spar, I must have made this mistake. I didn't select this most on any of these. Now there's my mid-spar. And then I can go ahead and add everything back in. All my ribs, half ribs, and there we go. I'm going to turn the sketches off so we can take a look, and I'm going to turn construction off. So not a whole lot to see here, but we have ribs that perfectly fit within this. And this can all be mirrored to create one full canoe with ribs and spars as support. Again, now this can actually be made. Few little adjustments that we would still need to make to actually make this go together, but we're going to talk about that in part 3. Additionally, in part 3, we're going to talk about how to actually make this rib one object that we can use, this spar one object that we can use. We're going to mirror them and turn them into components. So let me see. The way to show me this in Fusion will actually require 2 pictures. I'd like a picture. Let's make it 3 pictures. One picture that looks a lot like this, kind of a view with everything on that I can tell that you've got an inner and outer shell and your rib and spar here. Another one that does not have any of the inner bodies. So will look kind of like this. You can just keep it like this. This is good enough. If you can just do this, then I'm happy. Then it's just 2 photos. So 1 photo with everything on, and 1 photo showing me the interior of your canoe, so that I can tell that you understood how to do this. If you have any questions, please let me know. Easiest way to get to me is on Discord. It pings me as soon as you ask a question. And if you ask it on Discord, other people may have that same question, and that way we can answer it for multiple people. If you're shy, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to get back to you when I can. Anyway, have fun with this part of the canoe, and talk to you later. Bye.